What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the True Mets Talk podcast. It is Friday, TGIF. Thank goodness it's Friday. It is January 12th, 2024, and we have another episode of the True Mets Talk podcast. We just hit 400 subscribers on the channel, so I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you tuning into these videos, subscribing to the channel, and always leaving your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. Thank you all so much for the support. I wouldn't even want to do this without your all support and the interaction that we get here in terms of talking about the team that we love. But as always, if you're new here, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. If you have any friends or family that are Mets fans, make sure you tell them to check out the channel. Hit that thumbs up. I definitely appreciate the support on that, and it helps the channel grow. And comment your thoughts and opinions. All thoughts and opinions are welcome in the comment section. You know where to find me at CPNY Sports for more podcast updates and for more Mets talk in general. Today, we're going to be talking about the most recent report surrounding the DH market for the New York Mets, and that is the man himself, Jorge Soler, being reported by Hector Gomez that the Mets are, quote unquote, have heavy interest in Soler. This comes a couple days after Robert Murray initially released that the Mets were looking at Soler. Now, like I said, at face value, I'm going to take these reports with a grain of salt, and I'll tell you why in here just a second. But Jorge Soler is a name that I've covered in terms of a potential DH option for the Mets on this channel. All the way back in the beginning of the offseason, I talked about the DH market, Jorge Soler, Teoscar Hernandez at the time, Justin Turner, JD Martinez, all those guys that fit the bill for the DH, and Jorge Soler was definitely one. And for good reason. He's a premier power bat. The consistency hasn't been there in terms of the home run totals, but he's coming off of a monster season with the Marlins where he was a first-time All-Star in his career, 36 home runs, 75 RBIs, hit 250 in 137 game sample size. That is a great 2023 right there. And he obviously opted out of his contract, the final year of his contract with the Miami Marlins, to take on a bigger deal, presumably more of a long-term deal. And this is where I kind of get a little bit hesitant to buy into these reports and get my hopes up in terms of what Hector Gomez is saying. Coupled with the fact that, let's face it, no disrespect to Hector Gomez and his work, he hasn't been the most reliable consistently in terms of reporting these sort of situations throughout these off seasons and past off seasons. Like, he's gotten some things right. I'll give him credit. He does some great work. But in a situation like this, where we've seen the Mets hesitant to sort of spend long term on any player not named Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I'm kind of pumping the brakes on the Jorge Soler talks until I see something a little bit more serious come onto my timeline. And like I said, that's not to get anybody's hopes up, because like I said on the True Mets Talk podcast live stream last night, and if you didn't check that out, I'm going to link that in the description down below. You all need to check that out. I was on with special guest Dan Bartels. It was a great conversation. We went over everything from Pete Alonso to the current roster to our wish list to a buy or sell segment where we ran through multiple different scenarios and whether we were going to be buying that or selling that for the 2024 New York Mets season. It was a great discussion, so check that out. Like I said, the lineup's in good shape. This team needs a DH. I'm just not sure if it's feasible to expect the Mets front office to deviate away from their plan that we've seen all offseason so far for a guy like Jorge Soler. It's just not feasible for me. It's not realistic. And until I hear otherwise, I'm going to treat it as such. Now, like I said, given these numbers, coming off of a monster season, the sample size has been decently there, right? Last season, good sample size. Years prior to that, we saw in the Braves World Series run, he was one of their best players, was basically one of the reasons why they won a World Series to begin with that hot bat throughout the offseason. But the consistency is a concern for me when it comes to Jorge Soler. Now, his advanced metrics in 2023 were great. Hard hit percentage, sweet spot percentage, barrel percentage, walk percentage. He even struck out at a 25% clip, which is just below league average. For a power hitter like that, turning in 36 home runs, that's always great. And the Mets need a DH. They need another bat, because Mark Vientos, as good as I think he can be, I think he can hit 20 to 25 home runs. But he's not that premier bat that slots in right behind Pete Alonso and provides that protection in terms of getting Pete Alonso better pitches. Pitchers are going to pitch to Mark Vientos this upcoming season. They're going to give him fastballs, and they're going to pitch around Pete Alonso. And Mark Vientos is not going to be hitting behind Pete Alonso. Right now, the projection is that being Starling Marte. The Mets need to do better in the DH category. And Jorge Soler can definitely be at. But like I said, before I buy into this hype surrounding Jorge Soler and Hector Gomez's report, even Robert Murray's report, I have to pump the brakes a little bit and question, is this potential move, would this make sense in terms of fitting the Mets philosophy, in terms of treating this as a bridge year, evaluating talent such as a Brett Baty and Mark Vientos, and getting ready for the 2025 offseason when all that money comes off the books and they have a ton of flexibility? I'm not quite sure it does. I've been talking about it all offseason in terms of the DH, and we'll be talking about it today, later on the 12th. The Interstate Mets Report live stream show. We'll be talking about the DH category. I've been talking about Justin Turner. I've been stressing the importance of getting a complete hitter on a short-term deal like Justin Turner in the door. Like, get him in the door. And at this rate, how feasible these contracts are looking to be in the market, and with Jorge Soler presumably still looking for that 3-year deal, I'm just not sure this is the right fit for the New York Mets. Contractually, not anything against him as a player. His bat speaks for itself, and he's not a good defensive player at all, so we're not going to be slotting him in an outfield. I think the outfield's pretty much set to begin with, as I stated in my Harrison Bader signing video. So this is a pure DH option, and I think Justin Turner fits that bill. Jorge Soler does as well, but is he going to deviate away from the 3 to 4 years that he wants? He opted out of that contract for a reason. It was low AAV, and he wanted to opt out to get a longer-term deal. I was projecting him at the start to get a 3 to 4 year deal a la Starling Marte and what he got with the Mets. Maybe that was a little bit too ambitious. Maybe there is some interest on Jorge Soler's side in his camp in terms of setting back their expectations and hitting a little bit of a reset button. But is he going to go for a 1-year deal? In my mind, no, I don't think so. Is he even going to go for a 2-year deal? That also remains to be seen. If the Mets can work out a 2-year deal for a Jorge Soler with an opt-out after the first year, like with Sean Manaea's contract, that gives him the ability to go get that long-term deal if he proves that consistency this year in 2024, it'd be the perfect fit. But is he willing to take that risk? I'm not so sure. So for me, I'm not buying into these reports just yet. I'm excited that there are reports surrounding the Mets' interest in a DH because I do think the Mets need one. Absolutely. Hands down, if you've watched this team in 2023 and the lack of production at the DH spot, we all know objectively this team needs a DH. But contractually and the fit contractually with the plan that has been in place all offseason up until this point just doesn't make too much sense to me. And therefore, I'm not buying stock into these reports until I see something a little bit more serious, a little bit more concrete. So like I said, let me know what you all think about Jorge Soler. 2 questions for you all. Would you like to see Jorge Soler slotted behind Pete Alonso? That's question number 1. And question number 2, do you think it's feasible in terms of what Jorge Soler is looking for a contract for the Mets to deviate away from their plan that they've had in place all offseason in terms of the short-term deals and giving Jorge Soler a potential 3-year deal? Let me know in the comments section down below. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up button first and foremost. And make sure you comment your thoughts and opinions. I thoroughly appreciate it. You know where to find me on X and Instagram at CPNYSports, talking New York Mets 24/7, both in the offseason and throughout the season coming up. A lot more Mets content coming on the way. A lot more Mets content in the offseason, leading up to spring training, leading up to the to opening day, all that good stuff. You'll be seeing my face on here a lot more talking about our beloved team. Let's monitor the situation, though. I think it's good that we're getting at least reports that the Mets are interested in DH. I know Martino's sort of report on the budgetary constraint sort of goes against the Mets going to get a DH in terms of having $10 to $12 million left over for the rest of this offseason and prioritizing the bullpen. But let's wait and see. I think a DH is absolutely needed. I'm looking more at a Justin Turner type for the DH spot in terms of the overall hitting aspect and the contract aspect over Jorge Soler. But am I going to complain if Jorge Soler joins the New York Mets? Absolutely not. He can hit the ball. He can hit the ball as hard as he wants to. The hard hit rate's there. Like, he's a premier power bat. I'm not going to take that away from him. But I'm just not quite sure the Mets are ready to go 3 years for him. So like I said, Keep an eye out on the reports for the DH. We'll monitor the situation on this podcast. It's been another episode of the True Mets Talk podcast. It's your boy CP. I'm out. Peace. Thank you for watching the latest episode of the CPNYSPORTS pod. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that thumbs up, comment your thoughts and opinions, and use the lower right-hand button of this video to subscribe to the channel.